2008. I did one of my first industry showcases in New York City, and I fucking absolutely destroyed. Like, I mean, like, it was just like, it was the best feeling ever. I'm like, wow, like, everything went great. Like, the thing I closed on got, like, the biggest, like, you know, laugh and applause break it's ever gotten. You know, I'm like, this is the perfect thing. And I just came away from it just feeling so high, like, holy shit, like, that was, like, about as good as I could hope it to be.
Yeah.
So I was coming out of that feeling, like, fucking high as shit, right? Next day, I have this weekend at this club. So I come in feeling totally confident, you know? Like, I mean, not, like, cocky, but just, like, this is great, man. Like, I got my shit together. This is going to be a great show, blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but nothing was working, man. It was just like, I don't know what it was, but they were not feeling it. And in fact, one of the shows, I can't remember if it was the first show or the second show of the first night, but like there was one table who was absolutely loving it, you know, and they were the ones who kept me going.
Yeah.
And they're the ones where I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like, this shit is funny, right? But no one else was liking it at all, right? So, like, I was just kind of going out of my mind. I didn't know what to say. So, like, at one point, I said at that one table, which was, like, way in the back, I'm like, hey, man, why don't you guys come down here and show these people what comedy's about? And then some guy at one of the tables who wasn't like me was like, why don't you show us what comedy's about? And there was nothing I could say because I'm like, you're right, man. Like, I mean, I'm bombing. What can I say to you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know what it was, man, but that whole weekend I was just bombing every fucking show. And I was like my confidence level was, it started up here. And oh, wow, I can watch the box. I can do it perfectly. It started right here at the top of the box.
Yeah.
And then it was going here and here and here. And then, like, finally, like, the last show is here. And, like, so the very last show, it was, like, pretty much all black audience coming in. And this was after I, you know, so the manager calls me in the back, and I kind of have a feeling what this is about. And he's like, look, I'm going to switch you out with the MC. This is, like, a black crowd. Like, they're really tough and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I had nothing to say. I was like, you're right, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on, you know? And so, you know, I emceed, and it was actually not bad. It was pretty good. But man, I felt like such shit. And I called, like, you know, one of my buddies, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on, man. Like, maybe I'm just not funny. Or, like, it's like everything that happened at the industry showcase was just completely forgotten. And I was just like, it was literally like I felt like I was crazy. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. This always works, and nobody's liking it. Like I said, I'm really bad at telling stories, so I don't really have an ending to it.
Well, let me ask you: Did they pay you the same thing you had thought you were getting paid before?
Yeah, they did. That's actually kind of an interesting thing because that was one thing I was wondering about. Because I'm like, first of all, I've been bombing, so I feel like I haven't been doing my job. Even though technically, I think your job is just to fill the time. Yeah. You know, whatever happens at that time, that's sort of like an X factor. But secondly, like you said, just that last show, he switched me with the MC. But, like, I was wondering about that, too. And, like, at the end, like, I'm just, like, very humbly just sort of, like, standing there, like, not expecting anything, wondering if he's not going to give me a check at all. And I was ready to just be like, yeah, man, you're right, sorry. You know? And he hands me the check for exactly the amount that I was supposed to get. And, like, I was like, oh, wow. And he even says to me, he's like, yes, so send me your avails.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so, like, I didn't know if that, like, I was like, is that just, like, sort of, you know, he's saying that out of habit, or does he mean that? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, didn't you not see what I did up there, but also switch me out with the MC? So I couldn't tell if maybe that was just him, like, doing that out of habit, or maybe he was like, hey, I thought you were funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, were you really doing as bad as you think you do, or were you just in your comic head and you're like, oh, I'm doing bad?
Well, obviously, there's no way of knowing, but I'm pretty sure I was really
Yeah.
Especially because, like, you got to figure, it's like, if you have no confidence in what you're doing, which after you know, I think there were 4 shows, and each show I was getting less and less confident. I think it was just getting worse and worse, because you're going out there being like, well, here's a joke you're not going to laugh at. You know, you're not saying that, but that's kind of the attitude you have.
Yeah.
And if you have that attitude, then they're going to respond that way, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, you might want to do a lot of editing with this.
Oh, fuck it. This is going to be great, man. What are you talking about? We're here with Phil Mazo. Is it Mazo or Mazo? Am I saying that wrong? I don't want to...
It's so funny. Everybody always says that, but it's Mazo. You're right. Well, it's Mazo because that's what I say it is. But that
Okay.
doesn't mean that's what it is. Because my parents are from Russia,
Uh-huh.
so in Russian it's just Mazo,
Ah.
and I just Americanize it and make it Mazo. But that doesn't mean that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So we're here
So in
with.
fact, Mazo is probably even more correct if you think about it.
So what was it again? Mazo.
In Russian, it's Mazo.
Mazo. Okay. All right.
Keep Mazo.
I'll never be able to say that, but all right. All right. No,
But
that's
don't
cool.
worry about it. That's why I say Mazo.
Yeah, I
Which
did
is
it.
funny too, because people always think that that's like a stage name, which I guess I could see that, but it never occurred to me, like, because I guess it sounds very, I don't know.
It does sound like a magician. You're right.
It sounds weird, right? But I never thought about that until people brought it up.
Is your real name Phil?
Well, yeah, but in Russian it's Philippe.
Ah.
So
So
I was born in America.
that's what I was about to ask. Okay. Yeah,
But my brother wasn't. Like, I was the first one in my family born here.
I done a bomb show one night. Man, it was in front of 4 freaking people, and it was just so bad, man. I asked the audience, which they wasn't talking at all until I got to this point. I said, "So on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing here?" And the guy yells back at me. He says, "I'll give you a 7." I was like, "Oh wow! Did I build up to 7 or work down?" He said, "You're working your way down." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll just end it here." So I ended my set on a 7.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but I worked down from 10 though. Like,
Hey, whatever, man. Anything from 5 and up,
I guess
you're doing your job.
if I would have kept going though, I have a feeling by the end of my set, if I would have asked that, he would have probably said 0 or -1 or something. Nah, he was from Mount Airy. He didn't know negatives, but.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing along the lines of that weekend is, like, I was terrified about going on stage after that weekend.
Really?
And all it took was the next show where I did a great job, and I'm like, okay, cool, we're back. But I'm telling you, like, before that, like, I was like, they're not gonna laugh. Like, that was my attitude. I can't remember what my next show was, but I just remember being like, I mean, terrified's a strong word, but really being like, actually nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas normally I'm not nervous. And then I went out there and I was getting laughs. So I'm like, all right, cool, we're back. It's always like the last show that, that's like, you're as good as your last show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way. Well, I mean, I can tell you're funny, man. I seen you and you freaking killed it up in Chapel Hill, man. So.
Thanks, man.
Oh, that was good. That was
Things have
good.
been going really well lately. Like, I don't know what it is, man. I'm probably going to jinx myself by saying this, but I've been on like such a fucking hot streak lately, where like all my shows have just been killer, and I don't know, and maybe I'm just like on an up streak, or maybe it's one of those things where like I always hear, you always hear these theories from like older comics, like, oh, you hit like this many years and suddenly like you start seeing the Matrix, man, you know what I mean? But I don't know what it is. Maybe just like new confidence in just what I'm doing up there or whatever, but lately it's been pretty good. But then again, now I said that, and the next show I'm going to bomb terribly.
Yeah, you shouldn't have said that, Phil. Come on.
But that's part of why I'm having such a good time out here. I just feel like I've been having, it's been so good. And the thing about LA too that I'm finding is, it seems like there's a lot of people who are just starting out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of really good comedians at like the really good clubs and the really good shows, but there's a lot of people who like basically came out to LA to start comedy, and obviously they're terrible.
Yeah.
Because everyone who starts out is terrible in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.